Compound Coalition video. I am here with Tom Davis, running for congressman.
For Congress, yes, sir. The 4th district, or 4th congressional district in Tennessee.
So why do you want to be a congressman?
Well, it's a calling for me. So I'm a Christian, and I've been called to this. And just it's kind of has stacked up on me, if you will, and just through the process of things I've heard, things I've been doing. And then one of the big catalysts was actually a tactical response. Tim was talking at one of the classes, and what he said is if you find yourself standing around thinking somebody should do something, that somebody is probably you.
When least expected, you're elected.
Yes. So I started, and I've been active in it. I vote and make the calls, and I'm not seeing what I think we should be seeing, and so I felt that calling to do more. And as I looked at the representatives that I have, I came to the 4th congressional district, and I did not super excited about what I've seen. Part of that is you've got to show up to vote. My current representative, Scott Desjardins, has one of the worst show up and vote records. And I understand there's strategies and all that, but to me, the way I see it, you're getting paid to do a job. So part of that job is showing up and voting. And then in addition to that, the voting record that he has, he says he's conservative, which he's got a fair vote, but a lot of it I'm seeing, I'm again not super excited about. He's voting for things like this current National Defense Authorization Act, which has monies in it for transgender care, which has absolutely nothing to do with the defense of the nation. And in fact, it would be a detractor. It's money away from it. It's an elective surgery, so taxpayer money for an elective surgery. And within an organization, I'm an Army vet, so I know within an organization, you lose somebody for that. That's a seat that's being filled that is not productive. So it has nothing to do with defense. So votes like that. The last year in particular was with the Freedom Caucus when we removed Kevin McCarthy from the speaker position. He says he's with the Freedom Caucus. However, when it came time for Freedom Caucus stuff, not only did he vote against them, he voted to keep Kevin McCarthy. Then he proceeds to throw them under the bus and tell everybody. Then he shows up on the radio saying they got it wrong, and I just like that. To me, that's not how it should be done. If you're going to say you're with them, and I get it, we're not going to agree all the time, but if you're not going to vote with them and say you're with them, then just leave it be. You don't need to come out and throw them under the bus.
Well, didn't he do that for more votes from the other side? Isn't that kind of why he did that?
Yeah, it's publicity.
Or some would even go as far as to say that he's purchased by somebody, perhaps.
It could be. I'm just looking at the record how he's voting.
And isn't this defense bill actually? Isn't there a bunch of stuff in there that's almost like Patriot 3.0?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in this, and they're the one in it right now. They're looking at, or they're voting on the rules for it, but the FISA reauthorization, and which again, what they voted for was just how they're going to talk about it. And there's 19 Republicans that voted against it, which, at the end of it, the final one is going to be what counts. And so I'm trying to find his record. No, he did vote for the discussion on it and the rules.
Have you been in politics prior to this?
I have not.
Nowhere. What did you do? What do you do for work?
So I'm retired Army. I did have my own business. I started a junk removal business. I was doing that, and then I've got rid of that, and I'm still doing YouTube content creation. So, and that will continue as part of the campaign, and then moving forward after a win to communicate back to the district, because that's another problem we have, that everyone's talking to me about too, is that we don't see our representative in the district. I was in Meigs County a couple nights ago talking with those folks, and I asked them the question, when was the last time that they had seen him, and they had to think about it, and they came up with probably 15 or 16.
Where does he reside?
In South Pittsburgh.
Okay. And where are you at?
I'm in Morrison.
Okay.
So, I'm a little more centrally located in the district, but that's scheduling and the best. So I've called, and where can I go see my rep? On the breaks, and the best answer I've got so far was, well, you can Google where they're having the Reagan Day dinner and the Lincoln Day dinners, and he's probably going to be at those, which I did meet him. I was in Bedford County at a Reagan Day dinner, and I met him. So, like, all right, well, here he was. And the issue with that, I understand what they are as fundraisers for the party, but as a constituent or as a citizen in the district, why do I have to pay to meet and, shake the hand of my representative, one bet, either way, like, hey, good job. Hey, because again, we're not always going to agree on everything. However, we should at least have some kind of access. And that answer out of them, I was like, that just floored me for them to tell me to Google it. I was like, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would you change? What do you want to change? Why, what's the goal?
The goal is actual conservatism. I mean, they talk about securing the border, and how that is done through Congress is with the budget, and they keep kicking the can with these continued spending resolutions. We've got to have the line, and not even in the sand, in the concrete, and quit negotiating with the nonsense. The border has to be secured, and that's how we compel the executive branch to do it. So that would be a change, is in working within, and I don't know, where the backbone has been lost, but it needs to be put back in. And that's how we do it, is people that have done, and again, I don't have the political experience, but the boots on the ground, working with people experience I do have. I served in the Army for almost 25 years.
What did you do in the Army?
I was a 88 Mike, was motor transport operator.
Okay.
So I was a truck driver.
So what do you think securing the border looks like? What is that?
Securing the border is the wall, or at least fighting positions with a sector sketch. I mean, we've seen in Texas, it doesn't take a lot to put up barriers to stop the flow. And I mean, they stopped it in Texas, but all they did was push over to, places that are more accommodating of it.
And you said, we need funding to build that wall. Do we really need funding, or do we just need to redirect funding? Because we clearly have plenty of money to bring them across, and cell phones and everything else, and transportation to the middle of the United States and the edges of the United States. I mean, we can fly them just fine. We can bus them just fine. So clearly it's not funding. It's just use the funds for something else.
It's the clarification of the legislation, directing that money exactly where to go. Because that's what you hear now with the executive branch. They have way too much wiggle room, if you will, to reallocate these funds. I mean, we're going through it now with this student loan repayment. So direct exactly where the money's to go, and then he does it. Whoever the president is irrelevant, but you write that clear legislation that directs it where to go.
Who do you think the candidates will be
for the president? It'll be Joe Biden. That's if he makes it, like, physically.
No, I'm with you.
and it'll be Trump.
And which way do you think that'll go?
Well, that's going to depend. I mean, they figured out how to deal the steal in the last one. So if they can do it again, then it'll be Trump, or it'll be Biden.
What do you think bringing all the immigrants across the border, or the illegal aliens across the border? What do you think what's that about?
It's to change the makeup of the nation. It also helps redistricting in the House in particular, so they can redraw lines. And because what you see even now is they've consolidated them. So Texas and Florida have started busing them, which I'm okay with that, to the sanctuary cities, because they voted for it. You earned that. But now what we're seeing is the companies in the 4th District in particular. We've got some Tyson plants, and so what they're doing is going to these places and bringing them into our district.
Yeah.
So, and that's. Yeah, we're and people are catching on now.
And didn't Tyson actually close down? It wasn't 12,000, 18,000. I thought they actually closed those plants down, and thus laying off U.S. citizens, and then took all those migrants and brought them into another facility to replace that one. I don't think they even stood that, and I think there's actually 2, if not 3, of those Tyson.
Yes, yeah, they're doing all kinds of the shuffling and getting rid of the American jobs. And that's, so E-Verify is probably a thing we should be doing. And then just within those districts. And some of this comes down to your local, your sheriffs. I mean, we're not, and that's the problem, or part of it is the enforcement of this stuff. We think it's like all at the border. But once they get in, they're not trying to. The federal government is not trying to get rid of them, and that's what needs to happen. And that's how I try and break the stuff down. I don't know if you've heard the phrase, but break it down Barney style.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it really is. The solutions aren't necessarily that easy, but looking at it is simple. I mean, we close our doors so we can control who comes in and out. If someone breaks in, we're going to call the law enforcement to have them removed. This is the same discussion that should be happening for people breaking into our nation. I mean, that's the door to our house.
Yeah, I mean, look at France. I mean, look how that's gone. Look at, all around the world.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we can look, left and right and see what's going on. It's not a good thing. So that's where, out of the Congress is guys will go in there and say no. And a lot of it too comes around to the, budget is another big one for us. Like that, to me, it makes no sense. Like everyone call the representative and ask them if they're spending their own money at a deficit. Like how does that translate into now you're going to take taxpayer dollars and just, my saying is spend like a bunch of drunken paratroopers. Mm-hmm. And really, and the rest of the whole phrase for that is a bunch of drunken paratroopers at the strip club.
So do you think you would join, you'd be a member of the Freedom Caucus?
Yes. I do, and because we got to stand on it. No more deficit spending, and you cut the foreign aid. Just cut that stuff out and secure our own borders. And so that's some of the redirection you're talking about. Specify, tell them where it's going. Tell the executive branch this is what is happening. So
foreign aid. You mean Ukraine, for instance?
Yes.
Are we not throttling that back? Is that not about over with, or other than secretly hiding at places?
Fair enough. It is, but even now, the Speaker Johnson is put it on a priority to get it done. But you have enough of the Freedom Caucus and the Republicans that do want to stop it and that are listening to people, because that's all I'm hearing is stop that mess. Mm-hmm. And I mean that's our solution, and has been our solution for a lot of years, is just throw money at it. That's not working. So something different needs to be done.
How much redirection of that money that goes out actually comes back in or goes into offshore accounts with?
It's laundering. I mean, there's already problems with the Ukraine money. It's just the bit that we know about. I think it was like 44 million, I think was the number. But even that, it's like that's just what we know about. Mm-hmm. So that's where it comes to is that clear legislation. So what are the steps for you to become a congressman? What's the very beginning of that for you? The very beginning was, like I said, that step leading into it. And for me personally, last Memorial Day, the Veterans of Foreign Wars asked me to give the speech at our ceremony that we do. And so after that, because of that speech, some guys came up to me and asked if I had thought about politics or running for an office. And my answer was no. And then, like I said, just kind of as I started looking and things happening, made the decisions like, okay, that's probably where I need to go. But the process for this office in particular is a petition. And it was February 9th through April 4th was the deadline. So you pull the petition. You've got to get 25 registered voter signatures from your district. And then those signatures have to be verified. Weird that they have to be verified, but other signatures don't have. That's fun. Yeah. That's absolutely bizarre. Yeah, weird, right? And so in government forms, right? So it's 3 pages, and there are 49 spaces for signatures, which I'm like, wait, we couldn't just do 50. That was just something I saw. I was like, okay, weird. But so I did get 49 signatures. Of those 49, 34 of them were good. Like I said, I needed 25. And so the process of it, you go to the Federal Election Commission in your county, which mine was Warren, and talking to those folks, and they're very helpful. Not completely up on everything. Warren County is more of an outlier, so not a lot of politicians, if you will, for federal office come through there. So they might have just not known what they didn't know, and we figured it out along the way. I asked the questions, so drew the petition there, and then I got my signatures, and they told me like, okay, come back and we'll do a pre-verification, so I did. They pre-verified, made their little notes all over it. From there, you can send it or I hand delivered to the Secretary of State. And you have to have 3 copies when you go up there. 2 copies go to the Secretary of State, and then 1, I'm running as a Republican, so I have to take one of those petitions over to the Republican Party. So I take my 2 copies to the Secretary of State, and so from here, they fax it back to Warren County to verify it again. Like, okay, fair, whatever. I didn't make the rules. I just got to play by them. So I did that, and then go to the Republican Party, and then now there's still, so you have that, and then $2,500 paid to the Republican Party to be on the ballot. So I took care of all that, and then the last step or part of the process is your bona fides, your voting record. So it's 3 of the last 4, I think it was. You have to have voted Republican to be on the ticket.
And so they verify that.
In
some manner.
In some manner, yes. It's your opponents was the term or the phrase I got from the Republican Party when I turned it in. Like, because he pulled it, and I checked before I did the process to see that I would be qualified. So I'm not gonna. What's the point here of, and you see that though, I've got people do it. It looks like just to be, pull the petition and then, all right, I pulled a petition, and that's on the Secretary of State's website. You can pull that up and see who's pulled a petition and then who has signatures verified. So April 4th was the deadline for that. I don't know how long it's going to take them to process everybody, but that's where we're at.
So how many other names are in that pool with you?
So right now including the incumbent, there are 4 of us
okay.
that have verified signatures. There's 2 others. One guy, from what I know, he's out of Warren County, and his voting record doesn't support being on the ballot. And then the other one I don't know about.
Any kind of ranking? Do we have any idea where you are right now?
No idea. Just out talking to people I've been going to the Republican parties, the meetings in each county, and just in general talking. We're ready for a change. He was first elected in 2010, and it's time for a new set of eyes to different ideas, different ways of doing business. Like I said, I mean, we've been doing this for this long, and this is where it's got us.
They seem pretty friendly towards you, very open to
absolutely,
change.
Absolutely. And like I said, even I met Scott Desjardins, like I said, at that meeting, or at the Republican the Reagan Day dinner. Then friendly enough, and asking, hey, you getting around? You meeting everybody? Yeah, I'm doing the thing. And it's kind of, it is I call it and I've heard it called the incumbent protection racket. And it really is. And we as people are, resistant to change. And that's, those same questions like, all right, what's your background? The one was, she asked me where I was from or where I was coming from. And I was like, I'm coming from home. Mm-hmm. But what she was asking was the question, is the background in politics. And to me, this is a big step, but it's mindset. And my mindset is I'm getting up on the 2nd of August, and now I'm preparing for the general election, which really is just doing the same thing. It's more with this district, whoever the Republican is on the ticket in November is going to win. It's that lopsided, if you will.
So at what point in the process do you get up head to head and speak against or beside these guys?
I don't know that there will be.
Okay.
The 4th isn't a really contested district. Just like I said, it's really red already. The Republican or the incumbent, I don't think he's going to be too keen, and I don't think he's interested in doing any debates. Like I said, we're resistant to change, and everybody already knows, and what we fail to do as citizens is research our candidates. So that's the process of getting out there. So
if you get in, what happens then immediately? What's the day one when you get in?
Day one when I get in, so I've kind of done it in phases. Is in August, the 2nd of August, that I'm looking at really what I'm doing on day one. I mean, I know there's you swear in again, which I've taken plenty of oaths to the Constitution, which is part of this also, as just a continued defense of the Constitution, because it's under attack. Assault, really. There's no other way to, I guess some other adjectives in there we could describe it. But yeah, then it's learning that process and figuring that out. So that's where I am on it.
Got it. So AOC, she just got in kind of by accident.
I haven't really looked at how she did it.
That's what everybody says.
Yeah. And I think I was it? I think it might have been a primary.
I thought the other guy just felt he was so secure that he just never even showed up. Never.
Yeah,
even...
and that's where that's the feel I get is the complacent in keeping your job is what it comes down to. I mean, there was another one in, I think, was it New Jersey, and the guy like put almost no money into it and won by, or lost by, just 100 votes or so.
They had a guy, some guy won that was Lord, some crazy character, and satanic, cross-dress. Like, I mean, you check all the boxes, and he got in because the other guy was just complacent. Didn't do any. Never got in front of anybody. Never spoke, and boom, before you know it, he got replaced. Yeah,
and that's what I say out in some of the outlier counties, away from our population centers. Like I said, he hasn't been out there since 15 or 16. And I don't know that he's ever been in Warren County, or I can't say he's never been, but I can't remember him being in Warren County. And, and to call the office in D.C. and they're like, just Google it. He'll be at those dinners.
Yeah.
Like,
they didn't know either. Yeah. You'd think there's a website or something.
Yeah. Like, hey, here's my calendar. No, they're clueless. And to me, that's something different that I would do is be in the district still. I mean, that's you report back to you're getting sent up there to take the voice up there, and you report back. And a lot of us, and that's the the guideline for how I'll vote, and then the guidance or what I say my values are, and that as long as it lines up with the voters in the district, like that's where it is, and that absolutely no to any deficit spending. And then let's get after this border.
So what do you think happens? Because it often seems, at least from our perspective through the lens, that these guys are all holding out, and then all of a sudden at midnight, in the middle of the night, while some other nonsense is happening, a bunch of this shit gets passed. Like, how did that come to be? How does that continue to happen?
I really don't know. And that's a part of it, is to find out, to answer the questions like that. The curiosity of it's like, all right, when do I get the screws put to me from the DOJ? Like,
you might not like what you find out.
Yeah. It's like, hey man, like, guess what? You need to do yes. And that's, and that's, if I vote yes on some nonsense, especially because no on the deficit spending. So if anyone sees a yes on that, like, come help me out, man. Get me out of there.
What's your thoughts on the TikTok stuff?
So, that one, so we didn't care when they flew a balloon over the nation.
Yeah.
And waited till
multiple balloons. There wasn't just one.
We're not super excited, passing legislation about preventing the Chinese government from purchasing land around our military installations. So why is this a thing? It's national security. Really? Who are you kidding? But TikTok in general,
The reason I ask is because I'm on all platforms.
Yeah.
And we have a footprint rather large on all platforms. But I see Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey much more on TikTok than any of the other platforms.
Okay.
So I just find it interesting that it seems to be the other side there that's pushing this, when they were all about it, when everything on there was, Mulvaney and trans rights and such. And now that it has kind of changed, or seemingly, I mean, who really knows the algorithm? We see what we see. We don't really know what the other guy sees. But now they want to shut that all down and, force a U.S. ownership. And my perspective on it is they can't control Elon Musk. They can't control that. Right. At least they can bring those younger viewers, that younger audience, back under their control.
Yeah. And they think they know better than us to control our own, our own lives. And what is at risk? What's I haven't heard what the national security risk is to TikTok, other than, like I said, that it's the Chinese government is involved.
Yeah, well, the truth is DOJ doesn't have control over it.
Yes, yep. So, I'm like, control your own stuff. If you don't want to be on TikTok, don't be on TikTok.
Yeah,
that's the choice, right?
How's gun ownership in where you guys are?
In the district, or me personally?
For your state.
I think we're pretty good.
Yeah.
We can be better in that, and that's where the fight goes to D.C. with the federal government. The 1934 National Firearms Act and the 1968 Gun Control Act are both infringements and unconstitutional. So they should go away. That's, part of it is repeal. That's what I would be working at, absolutely, because it's all nonsense. We negotiate away individual liberties and rights for this illusion of safety. And now you even hear on the Republican side that I kind of perked up to this when you start hearing them talking about, oh, it's for the safety of the kids.
Yeah, well, it always is the safety of the kids.
Like, okay, so it's like if you hear that same stuff, and this is, like with the cell phone now here in Tennessee, and this is a state thing, but why not? And it's the with the access to the porn, right? So if we're gonna, the data's out there, it's bad. Why not treat it just like cigarettes then, and put an age on it? And you can't and I can hear the parents, right? Oh, but I have to contact my kid. I have to. Okay, fair enough. Them jokers can have a flip phone, and you can, you have that communication, and also what that would then alleviate too is the cyberbullying, because for whatever reason, where the kids are not getting the tools to deal with that stuff, like just block this joker, or punch him in the face and see if they bleed, But even that, we've been conditioned to be dependent on the government. It's somebody else's job to come in and take care of me.
By design.
Yes, yes, but that's the mentality.
We send our children to a place that has custody of them more than we do through the day.
Yes.
And they are seemingly raised by people who don't have kids of their own. Why would somebody want to have a bunch of kids, right? We send our children to people that don't like our way of lives, and then after 18 years, we wonder why our children don't like our way of lives.
Right.
And that's it. I mean, if you look at where the majority of those school teachers come from and the indoctrination that they have been put under, and then they come and they disseminate out into the government school system. It's not a public school system. It's very much a government school system. Yes. They look like juvenile halls. And then we wonder what happened to our kids. And they convince them that they need to go through another 4 years of programming. And to have a prestigious job, you need another 4 years. Yeah. So you have children with $120,000 in debt by the time they're 30 that have never operated in the field that they're trained for. And by the time they do it, many of those jobs don't even exist in that manner any longer.
Yeah, the college system is broke. The whole thing is. And we can trace a lot of these problems back, most of the problems to the nation, when the federal government gets involved in things it should not be involved in, and education is one of them. And I could see some guidance coming from the federal government. So we should be learning, like, as early as possible, civics. We should be learning.
There is no civics at all.
Yes, we should be learning the Constitution, and we should be learning math. In particular, how it deals with finances.
Yeah, how to budget a checkbook. Yeah.
Other than that, let the states decide what they're going to teach, because the kids here in Tennessee they don't need the same stuff that goes on in California. It's different. And I would even say from one end of Tennessee to another. So each county can have its own curriculum. And that's this. And again, this is a state one. You get the federal government out of it, and it's a different discussion, because then the federal government, is not like digging down all into your business and controlling, because that's where the federal dollars start flowing in, and then your state and local governments become dependent on it. And so, yes, you will teach this woke stuff, or
that's right,
we're going to yoink your money.
Yeah,
get off the money. And that's some of the discussion I've had with my state reps is with this the school of choice. Which the stuff, they start this with good intentions, and then it gets twisted around. So I would submit that we already have school of choice. You can absolutely choose where you live, and it happens all the time for athletics. The parents move to a district that has a phenomenal, insert your athletic program. Like, I want my kid to play football, so we go to this school, and they move. So it's mindset is what it comes back to, and we have this mindset. And now, and if you want to change it within that district, that's part of it. But go to the board meetings, become, get elected to the board of education.
So what are they talking about with school of choice? They want to be able to, for instance, live in a low income district and then send their child to another school. Is that what that's about?
Yes, it is. And right now there's 3 different versions floating around. And talking to my rep, it sounds like it's not gonna go anywhere, just because they can't make a mesh. But so each of the 2 has in our Congress or in that House, and then our Senate, they both have their own version, and then the governor has his own version. And then you talk about, all right, if I don't have kids in a school system,
why am I paying?
Can I get my
money back?
Yeah, and that's and a lot of the stuff we see falls under, the general welfare, which is in the Constitution, but general welfare is for everybody. And so, as a person without kids in school, it is in our best interest to educate the kids, but not in the fashion that we're doing. I would suggest that, and I was asked that too. Yeah, the Department of Education federally needs to go away.
Well, didn't Thomas Massey have a bill for that literally said end the Board of Education?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's state stuff. States need to be doing that, and even down into counties. That's the whole point of this exercise was self-governance. And we've been pitched this bill of goods that it's somebody else's job to take care of us, and that's not the case.
Well, it's because you've been punished for taking care of yourself.
Yes, and then we punish productivity. We punish success. Tax the rich. Get out of here. That it's like who's
well, they've done a good job of taking low-income people. We'll just call them poors or non-performers, whatever you want to call them, title them. But they are taxed as well. They just don't realize they are taxed because they spend in smaller, finite amounts. Yeah. Even the people who are given money, the money is taxed.
Yes.
And then where does that money come from?
Say what we buy, what we
people don't realize that like taxes, for instance, when they take money from me through taxes, it doesn't go into a bank account and sit there and then they amass that money and they send that to Ukraine. That's new money that's fabricated. Yeah. They have done a good job of convincing us that that's our money so that we will focus on that and not focus on them, for instance. That money that they take from you is to keep you in a downward class migration, and the middle class has been downward migrated, and they've done better jobs at dividing you, because it used to be blacks and whites, gay, straight, upper class, middle class, blue collar, white collar, and it's just further and further division. And if they can keep us divided, we don't realize that there is a common enemy.
Yes. Yeah, and that common enemy is our government.
Corruption. Tyrannical. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're dealing with it now with this current regime in the White House. It's like people, it just blows my mind. I'm like, I want to meet some of these 30% that are saying they're still behind him. Actually, and I've seen some, the posts on X. I'm better off.
Well, you can find them. I mean, they're still wearing masks. Yes. They're still wearing costumes. They still have all the stickers on the cars. You can see them, but if you look at society, we see them because they stand out so greatly because there are so few of them. Yeah. Social media has done a really good job at taking the craziest and amplifying it so that you actually feel like that is the majority, so that you feel like you are alone and there's no hope for you, right? Yeah. The other thing too with that side versus the other side, and if it even really is separate sides, we're busy working.
Yes.
We have jobs. We have families. We pay taxes. We do everything we can to pay less taxes by working more, setting up more companies, thus keeping us busier and busier, and employing employees. The other guys don't. Yeah. I really say that there's two kinds of people. You have people that create things, and somebody will seek them out to do business commerce with them, right? You have a skill, a trade, or a product that's something tangible. If my tooth hurts on Saturday night, I'm going to pay the dentist anything he wants to show up Sunday and fix my problem. You have the other side, the other faction of that is they only have money because they steal from people that create job and create money. DMV, for instance. Would you ever go to the DMV to pay another fee for a product that I have already purchased and been taxed on, to go in there to deal with a person that seemingly hates you? And if it wasn't for people working, if people stopped working, none of the funds would be there for that DMV. Yeah. And the only reason we go is through this threat of violence, right? Eventually, if you are stopped with expired tags, law enforcement will issue a ticket. If you don't show up with a ticket, they'll issue a warrant. And under the wrong circumstances, men will show up at your house and bad things will happen to you in the middle of the night over this. Yeah. It's always the threat of violence. People always call law enforcement because they want police to come and force you to do something that they are not willing to enforce themselves. Yeah. On your neighbor, for instance. And it's only the threat of the gun. Yeah. If they didn't come with guns, they wouldn't have any teeth.
Yes. So, less government. And back to our self-reliance, our self-governance. Yeah. And part of this, too, is, and so one of the first radio things I was on was in Lawrence County, and as I'm driving in, they have a David Crockett Park down there, and I referenced that in there, and then on my way home, Fox Business does like the history stuff, and so they had him on, or they had his story on there. Mm-hmm. So listen to that, and then listening to his biography, and I'm just like, it's amazing. Like, we didn't ask. Like, he's like, all right, so the government had set up like, hey, we're going to develop this area, and so he like picked it out and was like, all right, I'm going to build a house here, and just built a dang house and lived in it. Mm-hmm. And then just the stories of, the one in there, he was out of gunpowder, and he knew he had some stored in a relative's house across the river. Well, it was snowing, it was flooding, and he's like, all right, well, I'm heading out, and he left the wife and like 3 kids, and just like goes across this mile long or mile wide flooded river, gets his powder, and comes back.
There was no option not to.
Yeah, no option not to. And didn't need anybody else. Didn't ask permission. Just went and did. And it's like, we've lost that. Are taking care of ourselves and really working to. I mean, there's stuff in there. It's like, I don't know if you haven't listened to his autobiography. It's interesting. It was to me anyway.
We've been pacified.
Yes.
Men have no calluses any longer.
Yes.
Nothing's been pressure tested. We are super comfortable as long as the electricity stays on and entertainment stays up. They have you.
Yes.
We don't turn people's water off any longer. People can just not pay electricity and stay in the house. I mean, when you hear the squatters' rights stuff going on, it's absolutely insane.
It is, yes.
Now, with that said, you do see vigilantes standing up. You do see towns taking the security of their town into their own hands. They used to have what were those guardian angels with the berets, right? That was in New York. I do remember that in San Diego and Balboa Park as well. And I remember as a kid, they were always spun to be the bad guy. You have the vigilantes on the trains, in the subways, for instance, in New York. You have a guy that looks like he's going to go to jail over that instance. Meanwhile, you have people tossing other people into the way of the train, and I believe there's been dozens of those now. Yeah. So much so they put 200 National Guard in the subways. They've now put another 100, and it's they just keep letting these guys out of jail. Like they're literally not even. There's not even a bond for them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a ridiculous state we're in, and I think now is a time for new representatives. I mean, that's to go up there and actually do the thing, because I would rather take this fight this way to DC than an alternative, which it's like everyone wants to talk about this Civil War, and man, I've seen some of that stuff. I don't like it, and I know people here. So I would much rather deal with it in Washington and fix it this way than, have to put my training and pick up my guns and go to work. That does not sound like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's not going to be a division either. It's not going to be colors of uniforms.
Yeah,
you're not going to know who's who.
Yeah, and I mean, we've already seen it even with the Wuhan. Like neighbors on neighbors, and you talk about where you weren't trying to kill people, you won't wear your mask, and stay your butt at home, man.
Well, if you think I'm going to get you sick, you sure ran close to me really quickly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's just mob mentality. You have people who have had no say in life, right? Because they haven't gone anywhere to earn say. They haven't done anything to be qualified to lead people. And out of the mob mentality, you have people who that's their identity, and that still is their identity. You had people that stood up and felt a little bit of power over others, so they are still grasping at that. And that literally has become the victim mentality has become their identity. Their identity, they don't look in the mirror and see themselves. The identity is whatever crazy shit that they've latched onto.
Yeah. So, and I think I do believe that we're at a point where those that do want the change are standing up.
I think they're standing up hugely. Yeah. I think people have no idea what's happening.
Yeah. So, we just got to, like I said, the right way, and that's, get people in Congress that are gonna fight for this, the shrinking of this government, because it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Do you think maybe the Civil War has already started?
In a sense, I believe, yeah.
Because they say if you look at the Civil War, the first Civil War, they say Fort Sumter was the beginning of the Civil War, I think they say. But was it not actually bloody Kansas the 3 years prior when neighbors were killing neighbors and people were killing politicians?
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, it's a lead up.
30 years from now, when that history is written, what are they going to cite as the beginning?
Yeah. That's hard to say. I mean, it is. We're definitely in a struggle for the republic.
Right.
That's just an irritating
Yeah,
term.
it's
to
not
me
a
is
democracy.
Democracy. Yeah, not a democracy. So, but yeah, I mean, the fight is on. It's on us whether we want to believe it or not.
Are you aware of any of the farm bills and the stuff going on with farmers and water rights and the poultry stuff and the bird flu and
Yes.
and then coming out to even backyard flocks? And people will hear this and say that didn't happen. It absolutely happened.
Yes.
And they're running PCR tests where they could just literally turn the dial on those things and get the result they want. And they would take a man's chickens and literally quarantine the entire property for 6 months and put him completely out of business.
Yeah, that stuff's out there and it's real. And they're also with the RFID tags on the cattle.
Mm-hmm.
And that, in the 4th district, we got a lot of, smaller farms that big impact. Same thing with there's a medication that they use for the cattle. And up to this point, the farmers have been just, it costs them $1, say. And then now they're going to have to go through the vets, which is going to bump that price up $45, $50.
So that happened 5-6 years ago with poultry.
Yeah.
There used to be some powder you'd put in the water if you had a chicken coughing and knocked it out.
Yeah.
Now you have to see a veterinarian to get that stuff.
Yeah. And it's like, and how long have we as a race been raising chickens?
Correct.
It's like,
Correct.
yeah. And it's the drugs, the drugs are always the answer. And now you have to find this professional, the college degree. And
yeah, which has gone through more oversight and more bureaucracy.
Yeah. So yeah,
and then you have that opening at that point when they come in and look around. What else is it? What's going to be next?
Yeah.
Oh, you have a wire running someplace that there's not a permit pulled for. It's just more and more and more.
It is. And then the other side of that too is, so I talked to he's I don't know, I guess the term he does a beekeeper. There we go.
Apiary.
What's that?
He's an apiary is the keeping bees. Yeah.
Oh, all right. But he had to train the regulator.
Mm-hmm.
They sent, he's like, yeah.
You're supposed to register every set of bees that you have because of some fungus or something that goes with them.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was just like, wow, that's awesome.
You've heard the term allowed versus able.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And that was actually heard, Don Edwards.
Don was here yesterday morning.
What his, said free men don't ask permission. I think hopefully I got that right or close enough. That
Were you close with James Yeager?
Not close. I did interact with him. I met him a couple times.
Sat in some of his lectures and classes. Yeah.
And then I took fighting pistol with James Yeager before he passed.
What brought you here originally?
Originally was accident. So my ex-wife moved to McMinnville with my daughter.
McMinnville.
Yes.
We're looking at a building there, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, awesome.
150,000 square feet under roof.
Oh wow, that's all. Yeah, we like it.
Yeah.
But so I was living in Arizona at the time, and so I came out. It was actually for a father-daughter dance, and the situation that it was, I had a couple extra days on my hands, and I was like, hey, I like to train. And so I got on the internet and Googled up, and Tactical Response came up, and the dates lined up. And so I signed up for the course, and then the story still cracks me up just because. So I show up, and I typically show up a little bit early, and at that time they didn't have the fight in the windows, so it was just just had the Camden plumbing. And I'm looking around, I'm the only one there, and I'm like, I just got scammed. I was just like, oh, you got to be kidding me, man. So yeah, I was, I'm like calling, and obviously it worked out, but I was just like, that was just that whole, when I showed up there, I was like, the crap.
Awesome.
So yeah, and then I took that, and then we wound up moving out here. That was in 16, and then in 17 we moved to Tennessee.
And where do you guys? What city are you in?
We're in Morrison.
Okay.
Which is in Warren County. It's still pretty close to McMinnville.
Okay.
So.
Awesome.
Yeah, but it's been interesting.
We came from California 18 years ago from
wow.
San Diego.
Yeah.
Yeah, we came out here. James said, I said, I need to get out of California. He said, come here. Yeah. I said, okay. He said, you won't. So 3 days later, we were here.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. So, and you met him?
I did. So I started this company 35 years ago.
Okay.
A lot of people are not aware. James was the vice president of a company called Lightfighter out of Fort Campbell, and they had a big forum called lightfighter.net, and that changed name to ATS. James started Tactical Response, literally changing training out of a gravel pit, right. A very little gravel pit on the way to Big Sandy. And he was one of our dealers. So we were shipping 40, 50 grand every month to Light Fighter, and he was really pushing, promoting the product, and really helped grow the company.
Yeah.
We met him the first time at SHOT Show, the very first time we had set up at SHOT Show, and just been friends ever since. Yeah. And when he said come out, we were ready to roll, and we just needed to change. And man, I spent 20 years going, I got to get out of California. I got to get out of California. Yeah. And now people say that, especially young people. I'm like, man, you are unencumbered right now.
Yeah.
Move. Like you have no idea how much simpler life gets when you're not in California. You really don't even know what the real difference is until you've been out of California for a couple of years and have to go back for some reason.
Right.
It those lenses just come off of your eyes. It's like they are just built into your eyes and you can't see it until you have had freedom.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, Tennessee has been great.
It's incredible. Love it.
And I think the some of the stuff, I mean, like I said, some they get it right, some they get it wrong, but I think by and large we're doing pretty good.
Can you elaborate a little bit on the cell phone bill? I don't think that I've heard of this.
The
cell phone stuff going on in Tennessee here about porn or something.
Oh, so the TikTok bill.
Okay.
And so that's what they're trying to it's the age verification. That's the one. So you're gonna have to show age verification to get on any of the porn sites. And so the problems I see with that, and I guess it could be crafted in a way that is maybe okay, but they're storing data for 7 years. And they're saying that it won't be, names, numbers. Yeah, it's exactly.
Well, do we not think that Verizon is already storing data?
Yes.
You have to operate right now in this world as though every single keystroke and every conversation, you don't even have to dial the phone. The phone hears you.
Yeah.
And when they, we both know that when they want you for something, you don't have to have a crime. They assign a team of analysts to go through your data and find the crime to issue the warrant.
Yes.
We did it. I mean, they were doing it to guys with Stingray 30 years ago, 25 years ago in Iraq. I mean, every small law enforcement agency at this point has access to that. Imagine what's out there beyond Stingray right now.
Yeah. But so that's what they're trying to limit the, kids' exposure to pornography. And so that's part of it. And I'm like, again, if you're going to do something, go ahead and do it right, which we figured out, cigarettes are bad for us. I'm a former smoker. I get it. But we put an age on it, right? Okay, at 18, you can go ahead and smoke cigarettes if you want. So why not do the same thing with cell phones?
Is this not just Tipper Gore again going after Dee Snider and Ozzy Osbourne? Is that not what this is?
Yeah.
So I've seen some porn sites, and you have to say yes, I'm 18 to get into them.
Right.
I run social media. Even in the beginning, and we weren't big, but in the beginning, I had to show Facebook my driver's license to have a business account, and I have to show, every one of them. TikTok has my driver. Everybody's got a copy of my driver's license. And is a VPN not just going to reroute and get them into it anyways?
Yeah, and if the kids want it, just like anything, if you're that dedicated to it, you want it.
I think it's more
it out.
Watch that here. Don't pay attention to this.
And again, and parents, kind of a parental responsibility to monitor that stuff too. And there's programs out there for parents to do that. That
you can put limitations on the phones.
Yeah, the controls are already there for parents.
Yeah.
So do we really need legislation? Yeah, I don't.
We're going to legislate it, and somebody's going to give your kid a phone anyways. I have a 5-gallon bucket of phones I took away from my daughter.
Yeah.
Over years.
Yeah. Like I said, it's going to happen. So. Yeah. Yeah, you start legislating and regulating, and it goes sideways almost.
When we were kids, we played with fire.
Yeah,
always, right? I burnt some shit down. Probably shouldn't have been burnt down. Got my ass beat over it. But we don't teach kids how to use fire anymore, and now they are not careful with fire because nobody showed them. It's just like when you take a child, a young person, and you teach them firearm safety and teach them about guns. It's no longer a mystery, right? They don't pick it up, and if you take I don't know what the answer with the porn thing is, but it seems like this is a lot of money and attention on this.
Yeah.
What are we not paying attention to right now?
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's what that is.
Have you heard the vaccination of produce bill in Tennessee? Have you heard about that?
This is the one where they're stopping the the animals from being vaccinated with the mRNA? Or
no, it's beyond that. It's a different bill. They came out and said, hey, we want labeling on produce that has been vaccinated that is on the grocery store shelves.
Okay, yeah.
So what it basically did is they want to say, hey, there is this drug or this thing in here, and there is this dosage, and they're doing it under the guise of, a 100-pound child versus a 300-pound man.
Okay, yeah.
But what it did is it forced them to admit, yes, this is on the shelf, it is there, and it is an ongoing program that the population was not aware of.
Oh yes, yeah. I do know what you're talking about.
And then they banned
because they're testing with the animals, putting the vaccine in them already.
Well, it's in produce. It's in lettuce already.
Oh, is it in the produce? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. If you haven't heard, it's easily findable.
Yeah.
And then they also banned geoengineering and chemtrails over Tennessee.
Yeah.
But that's federal. Like,
and how do you enforce it?
Correct.
Yeah.
At what do you own? 0 to 400 feet? I mean, do we really own that? They're after drones because Amazon wants the delivery space for it.
Yeah. So, yeah. There's just the amount of legislation that gets pushed through. It's like,
well,
we should have a limit. I think, like, all right, you can only deal with, whatever, enough to cover the budget. And
imagine if a bill it contained one thing.
Yeah.
Like, what if it was on one sheet of paper? And you can have all your legalese, but what if it was literally one thing?
And that's part of it is, simple, clear language with this stuff. Like, man, and some of the stuff they're doing now, they're tracing back to like the 30s, and they're just, changing words.
Mm-hmm.
Like how,
vocabulary is being changed. It's being Democrat does not mean today what it did 50 years ago.
Yeah,
we probably would have been Democrats 50 years ago.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the process and then step into it, and then so also for this there's the reporting requirements that I have, and it's based on how much money you spend or raise starts the process. And this goes back to this early 70s where they're trying to protect us from the special interests.
Imagine that.
Yeah. But now, so I have to report financials to the Federal Elections Commission, the IRS, and the House Ethics Committee. And none of them line up. They're all, it's all
Ethics Committee.
Yeah, right. That's a hoot.
Yeah. So does fundraising win elections?
It does. There's a lot of that, and that's where I'm at in this process is fundraising, and just out doing the thing, really. Talking, doing shows like this, and just getting the awareness. Because part of what I think we need too is that awakening in the country that the mindset. I still hear it like, oh well, my vote doesn't count. You're right. If you don't go exercise, you don't cast it, and then you have to even back that one up one more and know what you're voting for, because we see it all the time. We'll mislabel the legislation, even on ballots, in Congress when they're the Inflation Reduction Act, the Patriot Act.
Yeah.
No, no. We're not going to use it against American citizens.
We got to go after these Middle Easters.
Yeah,
they were after us.
They absolutely. I mean, we got a former president dealing with that mess right now with RICO. Nonsense. And it's about controls. And part of it is, all right, it's for your safety. It's to make, law enforcement's job more easy. And it shouldn't be easy. Why should it be easy for, just stop the madness.
Yeah, let's get some criminals.
Yeah, right.
There are too many videos of little kids being harassed over selling lemonade and shit.
Yeah. I couldn't even imagine that. And I was a cop for a little while. But that was part of the rub is I'm like, what, I see there is a need for it. I do see, but I'm like, for me personally, I was just like, what am I doing here, man? Especially like with the traffic stuff,
harassing the working man.
Yeah. And I hated running traffic, hated it. I was just like this, and there were, and actually got hemmed up a little bit over it, because of some of my comments, because they dropped. So we had to have I think it was 3. You didn't necessarily have to write a ticket, but you had to, I think there were 3 citations, 3 warnings, whatever. And they dropped it, the daily requirement down to 1. And I was like, I was excited about that.
But you can find a real, Yeager said, look, when I was running traffic, I would sit there and he said, I could stop guys doing 15 over and write tickets all night. He said, I could also stop guys at 50 over and write tickets all night. Why am I stopping the guys at 15 over?
Yeah.
Like there's real stuff. Like if it's a hazard, like we can stop guys that really would make a difference.
Yeah. And yeah, but and there is, kind of that threshold, I guess, depending. But some guys that's their passion is traffic. Like, no, it's a 55, you're doing 56. It's like, that's probably a little extreme, but there's guys, one of the guys I went to the academy with, and it was kind of funny because he pulled him over, and that's where a lot of the other stuff is done, because all this stuff gets transported. But he pulled over the car, and in the car was the former chief's daughter. I don't know if he knew it at the time, but it turned out that's who she was, and she was 17, almost in like a couple weeks of being 18, and had cigarettes. Like 3 cigarettes left in the pack.
And he wrote her for
that?
He
wrote her for it.
Holy
yeah, I was like,
shit.
oh my gosh, dude, are you kidding me right now? I was like, but there's guys out there that are like that. And so, yeah, I was just like that,
Yeah,
like,
you hear that. You used to hear, I'd write my mom a ticket.
Yeah, like, no.
Yeah.
So, but we all have our different, like, passions of things. And that was, he felt enough to, just take the cigarettes if it's that big of a deal.
So being retired, what do you do on a daily basis? Like, what do you currently do?
Currently, I'm running for office.
That's a full-time job?
It is.
Okay.
And I'm fortunate enough that I am retired. And, like I said, I had the junk removal business, and I've gotten out of that to focus on this. The YouTube content creation I'm still doing, and I've done, I was going to keep the channels together, but I separated them as far as the campaign. My original channel was Gun School Reviews. So I did a lot of training last year and went to a lot of schools.
Nice.
And then this year I'm changing it up a little bit, but I will be doing the content creation for the campaign itself, and then updates on it. And then my other one, it's Red for Reviews for the schools. I'm just going to switch it over and do more gear stuff.
Do you have a team doing your social media?
It's all me.
All you.
It's all me. Yep.
Are you a Premiere or a Final Cut guy, or how are you editing your stuff? What are you using?
I use CapCut.
Okay, so on the phone.
Yeah, I'm doing it mostly on my phone. CapCut, Canva, and I do very little editing. I'll cut out like me turning the camera on and off.
And you have Instagram and Facebook also?
I do. Yes. Yeah.
And
Instagram, Facebook.
You cut it and then share it to all your platforms.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm building that stuff up, and it's all me. I do have a campaign manager, another veteran that I met and said, "Hey, can I help you out?" And I said, "Yes, I need a campaign manager." He said, "All right." So, he's doing a lot of the work, scheduling me and getting me out to talk to people.
Awesome. How does fundraising work for you guys, or in that arena? I'm not aware of it.
Yeah. So right now we're trying to crack the code on it. So we're set up. We can take individual donations or contributions, but as far as like actual fundraisers, we're trying to find the company that will host it and do it. And they work a couple different ways. You either pay them up front, and then that's just it, or they get a cut from what they raise. And so we're trying to find the one that takes the cut from the raise, because that's the most successful campaigns are, and it's more the grassroots stuff, the individual donors that are successful. And so that's where we're at, is trying to figure out the fundraising, and then just the liability that goes into that, because there are limits. And those change from time to time. Right now, as an individual, the max you can contribute to a campaign is $3,300, but then it's a campaign. So right now, I'm campaigning for this primary election, and so all the funds I raised for this have to be spent on this. And then as you wind down a campaign, then something has to be done with those. And I'm still working through all that. I mean, I haven't raised an enormous amount of money to worry too much about it yet. But I have had some donations, guys in the VFW that I know, and then had some family donate, and then just my own funds. And that's where I'm at right now, is to self fund a campaign. One is not successful, and two, I don't have the means to do that. And even if I did, again, they're not super successful.
So you guys don't have something equivalent to like a super PAC or anything like that?
So I do have it. So you declare as a candidate, and then you have to start a campaign committee. and then that's where, you know, within that committee you designate a chairman, or not a chairman, a treasurer, and a records keeper. And yeah, right now it's me, which is legal.
Right. So listeners couldn't donate. Is there a way they could?
Can? Yeah. So through my website, I do have a website, thomasedavisforcongress.com, and then I'm also on WinRed, which is the Republican platform. They can find me there, Thomas Davis, and then I'm on Give Send Go.
Okay, there's the easy one.
Yeah,
there it is.
Yeah. So Give Send Go, and that's Tom Davis for Congress is how we have me on there. And yeah. After in August, I will realign everything and make it all match. And part of it for me was in the Army, it was always Thomas E. Davis, and I sign my name that way. Everything on paper is Thomas E. Davis, but in conversation and meeting people, you know, it's Tom. And so it was really weird for me to like see my name and like as Tom, and like I said, I don't even know if I could sign it like that.
Well, so it needs to be Thomas E. Davis with the headshot, you know, hanging on the wall.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, but so you know, so it is. I do have a couple different, and then on the YouTube for the campaign is Tom Davis TN4, and I've got a few videos I'm starting to post more of those, and that'll be like an even day thing, updates on the campaign and where's our representative. And yeah, on the Instagram, Tom Davis TN4.
Cool.
So, yeah, just getting after it, learning it, and doing the thing. That's how we do it.
Yeah, we shoot 2 different podcasts every week, and we do 5 video series. And then Austin, one of my guys, takes out of the podcast, takes the little hooks out of there and turns it into short form content. Yep. And that's what really spikes the traffic. So when I do a live in the evening, we'll have between 20,000 and 180,000. Like last week we had 180,000, and they're doing what's called vertical integration. So guys that interact with your short form content, when you happen to be live, they push your live into that short form feed, and we just get a ton of dudes every night jumping on, hey, what is this? And they don't realize that they've interacted with our content because my camera's forward facing in the shop, just walking around.
Yeah.
So we get a huge growth from that. It's actually working right now.
Yeah. So. Yeah, like I said, I'm the social. I think that's going to be a key, especially in as elections move forward, and as this younger generation now. That's how they do things, and so that's where I'm pushing the stuff and trying to get in it and like I said, learn it and do it. So,
awesome. We just did Self-Reliance Festival. We just had our 7th event here this weekend. And you have a lot of other events like that around Tennessee, Kentucky and stuff, man. You should check those things out and get on the ground. That's where I met Tom Massey. I met him at the Rogue Food Conference, and then he's been to several of those events.
Yes, and that's where, there's the Republican, each county has, well, they don't all have, but most of them have their own Republican Party. And so that's where I'm on those guys with Facebook and their events, and then like my campaign manager. So between the two of us, we're like finding these events. An ice cream social in Pikeville on the 20th. So that's where I'll be, is out doing this stuff.
Awesome, man. Well, man, thank you for coming on.
I appreciate you having me.
We'll get all your links in the description on this video, so guys can click straight through to all your socials and stuff. So be sure to give them a follow. And we all complain. He's actually doing something, so support him.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and any number helps.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and that's, like I said, that's where it's done.
All right, man. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.